Hello boys and girls, today we are looking at multiplying decimals, and our learning target today says I can multiply decimals. If you take a look at this red box, these are our steps for multiplying decimals, and I would like you to write these steps down in your notes. Step 1 says decimal points do not need to be lined up. Okay, if you remember from adding and subtracting decimals, we said that the decimal point did need to be lined up. However, that is not the case when we are multiplying. Instead, you line your numbers up on the right. Step 2 says multiply like normal whole numbers, and for now, we are going to ignore the decimal point that is there. Step 3 says count how many total place values each decimal is from the right. And step 4 says place the decimal in your product that many places over. If you notice that word product there, that is the answer to a multiplication problem. So let's go through some examples here to see just exactly what those steps mean. So our first problem here, we have 2 and 34 hundredths, and we are multiplying it by 1 and 23 hundredths. Again, the decimal point does not need to be lined up. So this time we line up our numbers on the far right. So the 4 and the 3 add up or line up because they are in the hundredth or the farthest to the right. And then we fill in our numbers from there. Now in this example, it just happens to work out that our decimal points are lined up, but we will look at some other ones that are not that case. Step 2 says multiply like normal whole numbers. So we start with this 3 here, and we multiply it to each of the top numbers. So 3 times 4 is 12, put down our 2, regroup our 1. 3 times 3 is 9, plus that 1 we regrouped is 10. 3 times 2 is 6, plus that 1 that we just regrouped is 7. Now we are moving on to the 2. Since we are moving on to the next place value, we need to put in a 0 as our filler in the farthest right spot there. Now we take that 2 and we multiply it by each of our top numbers. So 2 times 4 is 8, 2 times 3 is 6, and 2 times 2 is 4. Now we're moving on to the 1. Since the 1 is 2 spots over, we have to fill in with 2 zeros as our placeholders. And now we take that 1 and we multiply it by each of the top numbers. So 1 times 4 is 4, 1 times 3 is 3, and 1 times 2 is 2. And then the last step for multiplying numbers, we now add these all together. Okay? 2 plus 0 is 2. 0 plus 8 plus 0 is 8. 6 plus 4 is 10, plus 7 is 17. Put our 7, regroup our 1. 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 3 is 8. And then we drop down our 2. Now, step 3 says count how many total place values each decimal is from the right. So we're looking at our factors here, these numbers that we are multiplying together, and we count how many spots they are over. So in this first number, it's over 1, 2 spots. In our other number here, it is also over 1, 2. So it's our decimal point has moved over a total of 4 spots between our two numbers. So now on our product, step 4, place the decimal in your product that many places over. So in our answer here to our multiplication problem, we count over 4 spots. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's where we put our decimal point. I'm going to write my answer over on the side here so we can see it better. 2 and 8,782 10/100ths. Okay, so there is our answer to that problem. Okay, let's take a look at this next one here. We have 45 and 35 hundredths, and we are multiplying it by 5 and 6/10. So step 1, we do not need to line them up. So this one is an example of where they will not line up. Instead, we line them up on the right. So we write our 6 farthest to the right, then fill in from there. Notice our decimal points are not lined up, but our numbers are farthest to the right. Now we multiply like normal. We have to take this 6 in our tenths place and multiply it by each of the top numbers. So 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 3 is 18, plus that 3 that we regrouped, which is 21. Put down our 1, regroup our 2. 6 times 5 is 30, plus our 2 is 32. Regroup our 3. 6 times 4 is 24, plus 3 is 27. Now we're moving on to our 5 here. So again, we're moving over 1 spot, so we have to put that 0 in for our placeholder. And now we multiply 5 by all of our top numbers. 5 times 5 is 25. Regroup our 2. 5 times 3 is 15, plus that 2 is 17. Regroup our 1. Again, 5 times 5 is 25, plus the 1 that we regrouped is 26. And 5 times 4 is 20, plus the 2 we just regrouped equals 22. And again, we add these two partial products together. So 0 plus 0 is 0. 5 plus 1 is 6. 7 plus 2 is 9. 7 plus 6 is 13. Regroup our 1. 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5, and we bring down our 2. Now, step 3, we count how many total place values each decimal is from the right. So we look at these, again, our factors up here, and we count, well, in this first number, it's over 1, 2 spots. And in our second number here, it's over 1 spot. So 2 plus 1, 2 spots from here, 1 spot from here, is a total of 3 spots. So now in our answer, we start on the far right, and we count in 1, 2, 3, and that's where we drop our decimal point. So our final answer for this one, I'm going to write it below here, 253 and 96 hundredths. We have a 0 there, but I dropped it since we don't technically need it. All right. It's always a good idea to check to see if your answer kind of makes sense with what the question is asking. So if we look back at this first one here, at this problem, if we were to drop what's behind the decimal, so we just look at the 2 times 1, we look at our final answer. Our answer is 2. It's more than 2, which would make sense because we have that decimal point. So we always want to check and make sure our answer makes sense and that we have our decimal point in the right spot. So if we look at this second example that we just did, the 45 times 5, drop those decimal points, it should be close to 200. That makes sense for that answer. Okay? Just move this up a little. Okay, this problem, 6 and 28 hundredths, and we're multiplying it by 45 and 1/10. Again, step 1, decimal points do not need to be lined up. Our numbers need to be lined up to the right. So we fill in our second number from there, 45 and 1/10. Oops, there we go. Multiply like normal, so we take that 1, multiply it by everything on the top. 1 times 8 is 8. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 6 is 6. Now we're moving on to the 5. Since we're moving over 1 place, we put a 0 to fill as a placeholder there. Now we take the 5, multiply by everything on the top. 5 times 8 is 40. Regroup our 4. 5 times 2 is 10, plus the 4 we regrouped is 14. Regroup our 1. 5 times 6 is 30, plus 1 is 31. We're moving over to the 4. Since we moved over 2 spots, we now need to fill in with 2 placeholders. 4 times 8 is 32. Regroup our 3. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 3 is 11. Regroup our 1. 4 times 6 is 24, plus 1 is 25. Okay. Again, notice how my numbers now here on the bottom, I made sure to keep them lined up so when we are adding, we make sure that we add the numbers correctly. I ran out of room, so I'm just going to write my number over to the side here, but 8 plus 0 is 8. 2 plus 0 is 2. 6 plus 4 is 10, plus 2 is 12. 1 plus 1 is 2. 3 plus 5 is 8. And then bring down our 2. Again, go back up to our factors here, the numbers that we were multiplying, and we count over how many spots there are. Well, on this first number, 1, 2, the decimal spot is 2 from the right, and on our second number, it is over 1 from the right. So that means that is a total of 3 spots. So on our answer, we count over 1, 2, 3, and that's where we drop our decimal point. So we have a final answer of 282 and 228 thousandths. Next example, I'm going to zoom in so that we have a little bit more space to work with here. Now, remember, at any point you can pause these and try them on your own if you're feeling comfortable. All right, this one we have 9 and 3/10. And we are multiplying it by 34 hundredths. Again, step 1 says we do not need to line up the decimal. So we just fill in our number so that they line up farthest to the right. Okay. Step 2, multiply like normal. If you noticed, I left the 0 off because if we were multiplying that 0 by everything across the top, it would just be all zeros. So I just left it off for this purpose. Okay, 4 times 3 is 12. Put down our 2, regroup our 1. 4 times 9 is 36, plus 1 is 37. Okay, now we're moving over 1 spot to this bottom 3, so we put in our 0 as a filler for that, our placeholder. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 9 is 27. Add these like normal. 2 plus 0 is 2. 7 plus 9 is 16. Regroup our 1. 7 plus 3 is 10, plus 1 is 11. 1 plus 2 is 3. Count over, we are 1 decimal point here, and we are 1, 2 decimal points here, for a total of 3 decimal places over, so we count over 1, 2, 3, fill in our decimal point, for a final answer of 3 and 162 thousandths. Again, we can look and see, does that answer make sense? Well, 34 hundredths is close to a third, and 9 and 3/10 is close to 9, and 1/3 of 9 we know is 3, so that answer does make sense. All right, let's move on to this one here. Again, pause at any time and try these on your own. This one we have 10 and 72 hundredths, and we are multiplying it by 4 and 8/10. Again, our decimal points do not line up. We line the numbers up to the right. Now, 8 times 2 is 16. Regroup our 1. 8 times 7 is 56, plus the one we regrouped is 57, so regroup our 5. 8 times 0 is 0, plus 5 is 5, and 8 times 1 is 8. Now we're moving over to our 4, so we put in a 0 for our placeholder there. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 7 is 28. Regroup our 2. 4 times 0 is 0, plus 2 that we just regrouped is 2. And 4 times 1 is 4. Add these together. 6 plus 0 is 6. 7 plus 8 is 15. Regroup our 1. 8 plus 1 is 6. Plus 8 is 14. Regroup our 1. 8 plus 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. 1 plus 4 is 5. Again, count over how many decimal points we are from the right on our factors here. 1, 2, and we are 1 on here, so 2 plus 1 is 3, so we move our answer over 3 spots. 1, 2, 3, for a final answer of 51 and 456 thousandths. Again, we can check, does this answer make sense? Well, 10 and 72 hundredths is, we're going to put about 10, and 5 and 4/10 is close to 5, so 10 times 5 is 50, so that answer does make sense. Nope. One more example to go through here. Again, pause at any time to try these on your own. All right, we have 2/10, and we are multiplying it by 45 hundredths. So we line these numbers up to the right. The decimal point does not need to be lined up. Multiply like normal. 5 times 2 is 10. Regroup our 1. 5 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. Now we're moving over to the 4. We moved over 1 spot, so we fill it in with a placeholder. 4 times 2 is 8, and 4 times 0 is 0. Add our numbers together. 0 plus 0 is 0. 1 plus 8 is 9, and we bring down our 0. Now on this one, we are 1 decimal point over there, and 1, 2 here. So on our final answer, we move over 3 spots, 1, 2, 3, for a final answer of 9, oops, sorry, no, we have a 0 in front there, so 9 hundredths. Okay, we gotta make sure that 0 stays here. I dropped the 0 at the end because, again, it is not necessary to have that one there. Okay, remember, you can always go back and re-watch any part that you need to, and then make sure that you have your notes from this video in class tomorrow, and go and take the Multiplying Decimals NICU quiz.